All right, so I'm back at the final table, and third in chips, pretty good position. Let's see, so I got the biggest stack, a couple seats to my left, and then I got the other stack that has me covered, two seats to my right. Not a horrible setup. All right, first hand. So I raised king nine and I cut off. Get called by the big stack, which I'm not happy about. Typically, at a tournament, you never want to play against stacks that are bigger than you that can knock you out, because you're not going to be leveraged in those situations and you're always at risk. I looked at that guy's stats real quick. I don't know if you guys know it, but on Club WPT, I'm pausing real quick. You can actually see people's statistics. And so, voluntary put in the pot, typically they say anyone that's over like 27% is playing too loose. And this guy's at 38%. So, I'm generally looking at him like a very loose player. I consider calling this when he bet this river. And actually, my time back went out. But I was pretty certain I was just going to fold. I mean, never mind the fact that, he could have had an ace. It wasn't a draw heavy flop. So, for him to continuation bet, or excuse me, for him to call this flop, I mean, the only like feasible hands that I can look at that I think that he might peel a card with would be like Queen Jack, Queen 10, Jack 10, something like that with a gut shot. Even if he has a king, if he has an ace, obviously I'm beat, but a king, I got kicker issues, so it's not a draw heavy board. It's not like there was two spades and the river didn't bring a third spade, and I could try to make a hero call in that situation. So I mean, it's a pretty clear fold. I mean, I guess I was considering it because of how loose that player was, but I think that it's a pretty clear fold. All right, so a couple hands later, I get pocket sevens, make a standard raise. Now, this is the ideal situation. I just get this short stack who's playing a 10 big blind stack to shove on me. It's a progressive knockout tournament, so part of you're making money in tournaments like this is you gotta bust players. And obviously, if I lose this hand, I'm only losing 10 big blinds out of like my 30 big blind stack. It's not the end of the world. It'd be a disaster if one of these guys shipped it on me that had me covered. I'd probably end up having to fold. I'd have to fold my sevens, I think. This guy's him shoving all in. That's like the dream scenario for this situation. And so my sevens hold up against his pocket threes, and quite frankly, he should have been waiting for a better spot. So this is going to be stuff that's going to happen a lot when a bubble bursts. Players are going to start playing a lot more loose. This guy made the final table, and it's 10 big blinds. He's on a short stack. He just decided to roll with his pocket threes. I don't think that's a good play. He has no fold equity. I'm obviously going to call anything when he's got a 10 big blind stack in a knockout tournament, and he's got a hand that the only hands he has dominated somebody with like an ace 3 or ace 2 hand or something like that. So I think that's a fold every day. It's better just to, shove like your small blind or your button, shove complete trash into two players and just try to chip up that way. But him shoving there with no fold equity with pocket threes, it's not a good situation for him. But again, the bubble broke. We're on the final table bubble for like a half hour, and he's probably just ready to ship it in and get out of there. All right, so yeah, excuse some of the stuff going on the side. I was streaming at this time on Twitch, so I was talking to some people on the side while this tournament was going on. All right, so hand plays out against the two big stacks. We'd love to see this as another person at the final table. It'd be great for it's very, very rarely ever going to happen unless they both have like absolute monsters, like in this situation, ace 8 versus ace king or something crazy like that. And if I was like the big stack and I had ace 8, I might not even raise just because, you don't have the nuts there, and it'd be a disaster if you end up like busting out or losing all your chips in a situation like that. So this is something to keep in mind when you talk about tournament theory. All right, so Queen 2 on the button, the big stack raises. Pretty much got to respect the ICM, when it comes to the big stack playing hands. Not going to get out of line 3-betting him or anything too crazy like that. All right, so this guy hung around with pocket fours and 9-2 suited. Oh, sorry. So you see some of these guys, they really shouldn't. When you make it a final table, you really shouldn't be limping into any hands. I'm if I'm the first in almost any scenario, unless I'm doing something I have a really good reason to think that I'm trapping somebody and that they'll dump all their chips, I'm never gonna be limping into tournaments. I might over limp behind some people with like a small pocket pair or maybe even a suited connector in position with a couple people limping in front of me, and I just don't want to get too crazy out of line. All right, so pocket kings under the gun. Obviously, I'm going to raise, and I'm going to call against anybody. You're not going to give me the full pocket kings at a tournament, regardless of the stacks or whatnot. All right, so ace hits. I'm probably still ahead. If they call, I have to reevaluate, but at continuation bet, and they folded. Okay, I remember this hand. This hand was goofy as hell. All right, so I turn the nuts, and I decide to check it, and then he bets. I figure he has a jack as well, and I decide to just call his. I decided to just call. This guy calls too. I believe he had king queen, and then we basically a straight comes out on the board, and this guy wise guy over here thought that he's gonna get somebody to fold, but yeah, I mean we both had a straight, and then he had two pairs. So I mean it was if I knew probably should have just raised the turn if I got him out of there. We wouldn't have been three-way chopping it, but it's not the end of the world, whatever. I also thought it was a possibility. The reason why I just called, I figured it was a possibility that this guy was just he was just betting in position and didn't have a straight. But all right, so 5-2 on the button. When this guy raises, this guy calls. I'm just going to be getting out of the way. I think I thought about maybe squeezing there, but especially with this stack being so small, he might end up committing. You really should be shoving all in or folding when you got like an 18 big blind stack the way he had when he started the hand. Okay, so it's pocket kings versus king 10. So it's just really just not a good scenario to call off. I think at that point it was almost about 10%, 20% of his chips with king 10, and with just the hopes of hitting something, especially considering at the final table a lot of these guys they're going to be playing just like top 10 hands. All right, so here's a hand. So raise and the big stack 3-bets. So it's obviously good when you have a big stack to put pressure on people, and basically represented an all-in bet with that bet on the flop. You bet a third of the guy's stack, and got the guy to fold. So that's good play by the big stack. Regardless of what he has. I mean, he could have had like pocket aces and just played the way anyone would be playing. Now the very next hand, I don't understand why he just limps in. This guy 4x raises from the button, and see what happens here. All right, so check and then bet, check call, turn pairs to 6, bet call, all in bet and a call. So wow, so This guy at 8-6, and this guy, I mean, it's pretty poor play in my opinion from both parties on almost every street. But if I'm the big stack, and this is all just basically pot odds and implied odds. With 8-6, to limp in and then call a 4x raise from this guy, this is very, very poor play. But, he ended up getting there in the turn and stacked this guy. In real time, I'm happy to see that because, I think I was saying here that at ace-9 suited, when I was on the stream, you could see my other cursor kind of floating around. I was probably telling the guys in the stream that if this guy shoved all in, I was going to isolate with ace-9 suited. Even though, this guy's playing passive as far as calling pre-flop, with king 10 and not shipping all in. I mean, I just think that ace-9 suited is pretty strong right there. So, surprised I just made a standard raise out of position, and I didn't elect to just shove it all in with 20 big blinds. Ace-9 suited against a random hand, 20 big blinds deep is going to play pretty good heads up, and I'm going to negate the positional disadvantage that I was at. Obviously, it's a pretty much a disaster to raise and then get called out of position when I'm out of position. Excuse me. In a situation like that. So looks like I was considering a 3-bet with this king 9 suited against a big stack, but I just thought better of it, which may have worked. Let's see, maybe not. No, he's firing away. So all right, so let me just pause it real quick. All right, so the dynamic of this table, the blinds just went up to 5,000, 10,000. So I got 41 big blinds. To my left, 14 big blinds, 9 big blinds, and then over here to my right, 12 big blinds. So, really in this situation, I'm looking to get these guys busted out of this tournament before I really start playing back at some of these big stacks or really start being like overly aggressive. I'm going to be aggressive. Obviously, if it folds to me on the button, I'm the effective big stack against these two small stacks, and I'm gonna lean on them as much as I can. But in a situation where like if I'm here, if it folds to me with a playable hand, I'll raise in position into this big stack because I'm gonna have a positional advantage on them, and I'm pretty confident that I won't go bust in that situation unless something really, really absurd happens. But pretty confident in my ability that I can play in position against a big stack. So I may raise and, try to win it outright or, just play a pot in position. So, all right. So first hand of the blinds going up, raises ace-8. He gets shoved down by the small stack with 7s. He calls with ace-8. That seems pretty standard given the stack sizes. And the ace-8 wins. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to get these guys, get more people busted out and just start to go up the pay scale. I think right now I'm guaranteed like 1,000 roughly. All right, so a min raise by a small stack, flat call by the big stack, and then the other big stack goes ahead and re-raises it. Queens versus aces, they get it all in. That's pretty standard. All right, so now to our left, we got more chips. We got a 32 big blind stack to our left, so we got to be aware of that. All right, so this guy finally makes a stand with king 9 suited. Let me rewind this real quick and just go over that play. All right, so he min raises. He shoves with a 10 big blind stack. He doesn't have a whole lot of fold equity. I feel like this. I'd have to run the numbers on Poker Crunch or whatever, but I feel like this is probably pretty good hand to shove with in that situation. Even though you're not getting, you're pretty much giving your opponent 2-1, and he has an ace high, but he could be raising that situation. He could be raising with pretty much anything. Generally speaking, I'm not giving these guys a lot of credit for being like overly aggressive and raising like almost any 2 cards from the button, like I may in that situation. All right, so goes check on the. I think I limped in the king 10 out of position and the small blind. Was probably intending on calling a small raise if he raised it, but I don't like a lot of times. I don't like raising in a small blind and getting called in position, and it's really a disaster scenario. So just giving a quick breakdown of the scenario that we're in right now. Four-handed. I'm second in chips, and we're pretty close. So, any ace king, ace queen or better, 40 big blinds deep, four-handed. I'm more than likely getting it in with those hands. I am going to be cautious because again, I don't think that these guys are, in my opinion, they're not getting too out of line, doing anything crazy. So, all right. So here's a hand. I defend 6-7 suited in the big blind against the big stack. He continuation bets. I hit a 7. He continuation bets. I call, and then the board runs out pretty good. And I decided to just throw out a value bet on the turn, and pair of sevens, jack jack, 4-4 board. I was hoping that if he had ace high, he was just going to pay off a small value bet there. So that's what I was just kind of looking to do, and just extract a little bit of value with my jacks and sevens. All right, so next hand, pocket jacks, and this one I will raise out of small blind. All right, so ace queen. I make a standard raise 2.2x big blinds, so 22,000 at the blinds that we're at right now. And so I remember this hand when I was on the stream. I got ace queen suited, and it's obviously a very, very strong hand. And raise, I get flatted. Now this stack that has me covered comes over top and three bets. If I'll be completely honest, if I was playing like on WSOP with or not even, it's not even so much about the site, it's more my read that I had on these guys. Like, I didn't see anybody like getting out of line and really doing anything crazy, nothing to make me think that that they don't have like a hand. Like, every time I've seen anyone flip over a hand, it's always been like a pretty strong hand, even for their range in that scenario. So when this guy went ahead and three bet me, the fact that I was in position, like I said, on WSOP, I probably would have just shipped it all in, and probably was expecting them to fold when I ship it all in, just based on how aggressive a lot of those players are. That they're just playing their big stack, trying to squeeze a raisin. But I just kind of went with my gut, and I pretty much knew unless I smashed this flop that I was not going to proceed with this hand. And yeah, so the flop comes out jack high. No straight draw, no flush draw, no pair or anything. And I just fold for one bet. It seems really weak, but given the scenario, given the way these guys are playing, and considering that, like, I feel like I got a skill advantage against these guys, I wasn't going to play this hand outrageously and run into kings or queens, or even running a hand like pocket jacks, pocket tens, pocket nines that he would have called off with. In that situation, I'm flipping in that situation against a player, for one, that has me covered. So he has a $316 there's progressive knockout, and even if I win the hand, I wouldn't get that knockout. So I mean, that less incentivizes me going all in. And then of course he can bust me, but then also just flipping in this situation, how deep I am, just a coin flip in a situation where I feel like I have a statistical advantage. I'll be honest, I do not think that this guy was even going to three bet pre-flop with a hand like ace jack. I think he would just call and see a flop. I think with anything worse than like pocket nines, or even pocket eights, he's probably not going to put in a raise. So I really think that I was dominating. I maybe should have even folded pre-flop, but ace queen suited is obviously a very strong hand. I had a positional advantage, so but it just gives you an idea. Like, I'm just not going to indiscriminately just shove it all in. I'm going to analyze the situation and realize it's probably a scenario where I should just be playing it very, very cautiously, all things considered. All right, so I'm going to stop this recording and I'm going to start back with another video.